WHGE 95.3 FM. Coming up, the Open Eye. All right. Sorry I'm late. Couldn't get in the building. What time with that? All right. Let's get started here.
Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego digging. We do so because the chains of oppression in our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host and third eye optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, right here on the Education Advocacy Station. Yes, indeed, we are going to get started. I was in a little late today because I couldn't get the damn door open. Here, let me get my disclaimer out the way. All right.
The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the host, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
All right. Whoa. WHGE 95.3 FM. Yes, indeed. You know what? Let's get right to it. All right. Yeah, buddy, we ready to have a good time today. Hey, how you doing, Sister Tracy? I'm going to start here. Let's see, most people that know me and know anything about my family history know that I am a fourth generation Garveyite. Okay, I can remember how my grandmother would pronounce this man's name. She wouldn't call him Du Bois. She called him Dubois. And she said it with much contempt. And if you know anything about the history, which I'm going to hit you to it right now. Okay, let me tell you. No account of Black history in America is complete without the examination of the rivalry between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, which in the late 19th to early 20th centuries changed the course of the quest for equality in American society. And in the process, helped give birth to the modern civil rights movement. Though Washington and Du Bois were both men in the same era, both highly accomplished scholars, and both committed to the cause of civil rights for blacks in America, it was their differences in background and method that would have the greatest impact on the future. Okay. Hey, Sherry, I see you, sister, brother Jardea. All right, Steve. All right. Born into slavery in Virginia in 1856, Booker T. Washington's early life and education did much to influence his later thinking, of course. After the Civil War, he worked in a salt mine and as a domestic for a white family, and eventually attended the Hampton Institute, one of the first all-black schools in America. After completing his education, he began teaching. And in 1881, he was selected to head the Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute in Alabama, a sort of vocational school that sought to give African Americans the necessary moral instruction and practical work skills to make them successful in the burgeoning Industrial Revolution. Washington believed that it was economic independence and the ability to show themselves as productive members of society that would eventually lead blacks to true equality. And that they should, for the time being, set aside any demands for civil rights. These ideals form the essence of a speech he delivered to a mixed-race audience at the Cotton State and International Exposition in Atlanta in 1895. There and elsewhere, his ideals were readily accepted by both blacks who believed in the practical rationality of his approach, and whites who were more than happy to defer any discussion of social and political equality to blacks to a later date. It was, however, referred to pejoratively as the Atlanta Compromise by its critics, and among them, W.E.B. Du Bois. William Edward Burghardt Du Bois was born in 1868 in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, to a free black family in a comparatively integrated community. He attended the local schools and excelled in his studies, eventually graduating as a valedictorian of his class. However, when in 1885 he began attending Fisk University in Tennessee, he encountered for the first time the open bigotry and repression of the Jim Crow South. And the experience had a profound impact on his thinking. Du Bois returned to the North to further his education, with nothing less than equal rights for black Americans being his ultimate goal. When he earned his PhD from Harvard University in 1895, he was the first black man to have done so. And his dissertation, The Suppression of the African Slave Trade to the United States of America, 1638 to 1870, was one of the first academic works on the subject. When Du Bois was asked, didn't he feel it was an honor for him to be the first black man to graduate from Harvard, PhD? Du Bois responded, I assure you the honor was all Harvard's. That was his mode of thinking. And for those of you that don't know, Du Bois was the first street ethnologist, the first black man, or really the first person in America to study our society on the street level. And of course, primarily, his aim was to study the lives of black people. By the early 20th century, before I go there, one of the reasons I bring that up, because I personally know expert ethnologists, and that's my good friend, Dr. Yasir Payne, University Delaware professor. But the earliest 20th century, Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois were the two most influential black men in the country. Washington's conciliatory approach to civil rights had made him adept at fundraising for his Tuskegee Institute. It wasn't just for the Tuskegee Institute, as well as for other black organizations. And he had also endeared to him the white establishment, including President Theodore Roosevelt, who often consulted him regarding all black matters. On the other hand, Du Bois had, by that time, become the country's foremost black intellectual, having published numerous influential works on the conditions of black Americans. In contrast to Washington, Du Bois maintained that education and civil rights were the only way to equality, and that concealing their pursuit would simply serve to reinforce the notion of blacks as second-class citizens. Following a series of articles in which the two men expounded on their ideologies, their differences finally came to a head when, in 1903, Du Bois published a work titled The Souls of Black Folk. I read that when I was 15, in which he directly criticized Washington and his approach, and went on to demand full civil rights for blacks. More than just deepening the personal dislike between Washington and Du Bois, this ideological rift would in time prove to be one of the most important in the history of struggle for civil rights. Believing that political action and agitation were the only way to achieve equality, in 1905, Du Bois and other black intellectuals founded a radical political group called Niagara, which was dedicated to the cause. Though the group eventually dissolved a few years later, in 1909, several of its members and many of its aims were incorporated into a new organization, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. For the next 25 years, Du Bois would serve as its director of publicity, as well as the editor of its journal, The Crisis, which became the mouthpiece for the organization, for Du Bois, and for Black America in general. Now, when President Woodrow Wilson assumed office in 1913, let me remind you, this was one of the worst races to sit in the White House. Okay, and that's hard to say considering the white supremacists that have sat in the Oval Office. That's saying a lot. Remember, it was Wilson who showed the movie, just slipped my mind, had a brain fart. Showed the movie, what's the name of the damn movie? Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation. I know later on there was a movie called Birth of a Nation that was about Nat Turner, but the first movie called Birth of a Nation was produced by D.W. Griffith, and what it really was a propaganda piece spurring the rise of the Ku Klux Klan. Okay? When Woodrow Wilson assumed office in 1913, he immediately segregated the federal government, and Booker T. Washington consequently lost the political influence he had enjoyed for the previous decade. Washington died in Tuskegee, Alabama on November 14th, 1915. W.E.B. Du Bois eventually split from the NAACP, but he continued to champion the cause of civil rights for both Africans in America and the Africans in the diaspora around the world. After joining the American Communist Party in 1961, Du Bois repatriated to Ghana and became a naturalized citizen. He died in Ghana on August 27th, 1963, at the age of 95. Martin Luther King led the March on Washington the very next day. All right. Well, one of the things that we need to know that Dr. Clark teaches us is that you got to know not just the history, but the gossip of history. Okay? And that doesn't mean it wasn't so. Okay? When I say the gossip of history, what I mean is, for instance, this. One of the things that Dr. Clark said about Booker T, who, a lot of, black militant people considered Uncle Tom, considered a handkerchief heel because of his Atlanta Compromise speech. Let me tell you something, okay? Booker T. Washington was probably one of the greatest con men in American history, because he would get up and say things like, hey, we don't want to bother you white people, okay? What we want to do is just, raise ourselves up with education and hard work. We don't want nothing from you. We don't want to sit next to you in the theater. And I agree with that. I don't give a damn about sitting next to no white person in the theater or on the bus, okay? And what Booker T did when he said those things, Theodore Roosevelt, who was president at the time during the height of Booker T's power and influence, okay? J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie. When Booker T would say things like this, they said, you know what? Give Booker T some more money. And what he did with that money, of course, was was to support education for black people by expanding one Tuskegee and financing several other HBCUs. All right. Okay, and like I said, every time they actually, I think it was Andrew Carnegie, actually set up a bank account where he deposited a couple $100,000 and allowed Booker T to draw off the interest every year to support his causes in black education. Okay, another thing that Booker T did, which a lot of people are not aware of, back up before you call Booker T a Negro King, all right, was he actually supported the black militants of his time secretly. He would encourage them to criticize him so that whites would think that this rift was real between him and people like Trotter, Reverend Trotter, who was probably the Malcolm X of his time, the early 1900s. All right, Trotter actually held a protest against the movie A Birth of a Nation. I think it was in Boston, somewhere in New England, where it actually turned into a riot. Right, and he was very, very verbally hardcore on Booker T. All right, and as soon as him and Booker T got behind closed doors, Booker T is giving him a bag. And you know what I mean? A bag full of money to support the causes. And yeah, hey, keep right on criticizing it. And this information actually came out years later, actually decades later, okay, in letters that Booker T wrote to Trotter, to Reverend Trotter. So be careful who you call Uncle Tom or Handkerchief Head, without knowing their actual stance and actual history and what they did behind the scenes. I'm gonna come back with the fight between Booker T and not Booker T, W.E.B. Du Bois, as my grandmother said, and Marcus Garvey. This is The Open Eye on WHGE 95.3. Let me get some show music up here right quick. All right. There you go. There we go. We'll be back also with my partner in consciousness, Nsoromma. This is The Open Eye. What up, bro?
Yo, Wagwan! Yo, Chasey, Charity, yo, boy, yo, what's happening? Yo, what's good? Yo, the whole squad, yo, Inaga, what's good? I see you.
WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. In the house, Nsoromma. What's up, brother?
Yaga! Wagwan, chop. You know what it is. What's up, world? What's up, world?
All right. You heard me talking about Booker T.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on with Du Bois and even though, and Marcus Garvey, like I had mentioned earlier, my family Garveyites dating back to my great-grandfather.
Right.
My grandmother's father. Okay. Old Howard Cooper. Yes, indeed. That was my great-grandfather. Howard Cooper actually...
He got my last name.
Yeah, because...
We related.
Yeah, we probably are. You know what is an interesting thing about that? I'm glad you said that. Okay. I saw this brother say that he ran into this white lady. They were in some conference or somewhere,
right,
and they had the same last name.
Right.
And she jokingly came over and said, "Hey, we're probably cousins." He said, "No, probably not. What was probably the situation is your family owned my family." She didn't think that was so funny. He wasn't joking. Well, anyway, I was saying about Howard Cooper. Howard Cooper was actually born downstate. And he was one of those men whose back wouldn't bend. Okay? Right. Proud to say that about my great-grandfather. His back wouldn't bend. His family actually made him move up here because they were afraid that whites south of the St. George's Canal would have killed him. So he came up here when he was like 15, 16 years old. Okay. And of course, during those times, it was required that black people keep their back bent because standing up straight and holding your head up could get your neck stretched. All right. Well, old Howard Cooper didn't give a damn. He became a Garveyite. As a matter of fact, according to my family history, Howard Cooper actually filed the papers for the Black Star Line, which was Marcus Garvey's, the UNIA's black shipping line. And it was incorporated actually here. And it was my great-grandfather that filed those papers. I'm really proud of that.
Is that line still? Is that shipping line still?
Oh no. They destroyed. They made sure to destroy that shipping line. You know, and let's get on with the rift between Booker T and Marcus Garvey. Was W.E.B. Du Bois a sellout, a coon, and Uncle Tom? No. Actually, he wasn't. He made some mistakes, but no, he wasn't. Du Bois was, however, an elitist and an aristocrat who embraced the ideal of the talented tenth, which was espoused by northern white liberals who declared that a tenth of black men would lead the masses to acceptance by the dominant society. A lot of us didn't like that. W.E.B. Du Bois' major problem was that he thought he would inherit the mantle of Booker T. Washington. Remember, Booker T was a very powerful black man. He was pretty much considered the president of black America. I mean, he was recognized as the undisputed leader of black people in America. However, Du Bois could not connect nor communicate with the masses of black people the way Marcus Garvey could. And Du Bois became very jealous and bitter and was actually instrumental in taking Garvey down, which is one of the reasons that my grandmother hated Du Bois. Okay? In later years, he was virtually stripped of his power and prestige in the NAACP, which he helped found. Du Bois left the country bitter and defeated and lived barely grasping the position of elder statesman of black intellectualism in Ghana. In his twilight years, he declared that Garvey was right, and the path Garvey set was the path to true liberation. I'm not big on conspiracy theories, and I think we give white supremacy too much power and credit. White supremacy is indeed evil and treacherous, but not insurmountable. Okay? And that was the ideal that taking down some of our black leaders was instilled in a lot of our people, and it's still there. That white supremacy is insurmountable. It's not. It's not. Okay? As a matter of fact, what I will tell you is this. Okay? That they are very much afraid of our people. Okay? The FBI started by J. Edgar Hoover, and his first assignment was to take down Marcus Garvey. Years later, during the 60s, when he was asked what was the greatest danger to America, he didn't say the mob, he didn't say the Vietnam War, he didn't say crime in the streets, he didn't say drugs. He said the unity of the Negro is the greatest threat to black America. Let that sink in.
So why you think that was the main? What made you? What you think made him say that?
What made him say that? Because he saw what we could accomplish when we were unified. Okay, you know why the Montgomery bus boycott was so effective? Because we had collective purpose. Okay, we had unity, and that collective purpose we stood strong on for over a year. Okay, until the Montgomery bus boycott affected the economy of Montgomery to the extent that whites backed down. The last thing they want is for us to be unified. Just in that one city, in that one small significant instance,
right,
all right, was the major example of what we could accomplish when we are together. Collective purpose. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye.
Yo, good morning, y'all. What's good? What's good? He dropping science. He dropping science. Kwame, what's up? Towards the end, he reconsidered his earlier thoughts. Oh yeah.
What's that now?
When Darkness said towards the end, he reconsidered his earlier thoughts talking about Marcus Garvey.
Oh, okay. Okay, I heard that. Yes, indeed. Yeah, buddy.
All right.
WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs.
Nsoromma in the building.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, you know something?
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed, and you ever wonder why, there aren't any Chinese food or Asian stores in white neighborhoods? You ever notice that?
There isn't any stores in white neighborhoods.
Oh yeah, they got their little stores.
I
in the neighborhoods.
mean,
well,
like
usually
every
it's
corner
usually
like we have,
have,
it's
right?
every corner. It's like it's designed in our areas to entice you to spend your money every block.
Yeah,
You know, and the suburb communities, you don't even have a store for miles around, so you ain't even really thinking about spending your money and being hungry.
Yeah,
I mean,
you got to go to the strip mall.
Yeah,
or
you
mall.
gotta take a ride to spend your money.
Right.
Most of them don't do that, or walk, or run and spend your money. And
if you do walk, you're walking to Wawa.
And we only take a couple steps, and we got a corner store, a store in the middle of the block, a liquor store at every corner. Yeah, like it's set up, man.
Yeah. So why isn't there any Chinese food or Asian stores in white neighborhoods? I'm gonna tell you why. Asian Americans are redlined from opening businesses, while neighborhoods. Excuse me. Let me tell you that again. Asian Americans were redlined for opening businesses in white neighborhoods because white people didn't want Asian Americans operating in neighborhoods, and they didn't want Asian Americans profiting off of white people. But because of positionality of Asian Americans is weaponized to oppress black people, okay, because Asian Americans are called the model minority as compared to the violent, crime-ridden black people, as they, as the propaganda has made us out to be. Okay, Asian Americans were actually given loans to open businesses in black communities, even though black people were not able to receive loans to open businesses in their own damn communities. And as a result of this, black wealth is essentially paid out twice when it goes to Asian Americans. Once when the individual pays for goods and services, and then again when the Asian American business owner removes the profit from the community, because usually people open businesses in their own communities, and this is mutually beneficial where the business owner is making a livelihood off of providing goods and services to their community, and by being a member of the community, they're contributing and they're investing back into the community. This is an ideal situation, and that is not what happens with Asian American businesses operating in black communities, okay? And guess what?
What?
Malcolm X told us about this over 50 years ago, that at the time, he was saying, you had Jewish, Italian, and Polish businesses in our communities, sucking our wealth out and taking it to the suburbs. Asian merchants are doing the same thing to us. Now, what's crazy is we don't stand up to that. Okay, I seen a brother come, and not just Asian merchants, Arab and Indian merchants as well. Okay, I seen a brother. Well, I had a brother come to the print shop, and at the time I was writing for the Woman's Spectator.
Right.
And he said, you need to write an article about how they doing us and how disrespectful they are in our own community. I said, you know what, brother? I do you one better. So you got a corner store that's owned by Asians in your community, and when black people in your community go in their store, they're disrespected. I said, here's what you do, all right? Because I run a print shop. I'm going to print you off some flyers that say, don't go in here and spend your money because we're disrespected here. And you stand on the corner in front of that store and hand them out to your people in the community, and let's shut this thing down. He said, oh, well, I wasn't going to do all that, man. I just thought that maybe, you want me to say something, but you ain't going to do a damn thing about it.
Ooh, nah, it's always like that too. You know, you can instigate the fight. All right, come on. Well, they got four people. It's us four. Let's go. That's a fair one. Let's go. Let's get it in. That's when they, it's when it boils down to them applying. It's a lost cause, and that's why we go through what we go through. That's where the unity have to come in at. You have to stand up for what you believe in.
Doggone right. And we're not, too many of us are not willing to do that. And that's one of the criticisms that I have for us, is that we're not willing to stand up. And that we have been brainwashed into believing the propaganda that this white supremacist is insurmountable. He is not. Let me tell you something. One of the mythologies that is prevalent is the American dream. All right? When someone says America is the greatest country, they're either trying to brainwash you or they already been brainwashed. Let me tell you where America is number one. Number one in obesity. These fat, lazy bastards don't do nothing but sit around and eat. 30.6% of the population, all right, and creating diabetes around the world. Number one in obesity. Number one in the most costly healthcare system in the world. And rated number 37 in quality versus number one quality in France.
Right. And
cost 45% less than in the U.S. In teenage pregnancy, with 494,000 births versus number two, Poland. Poland is number two in teenage pregnancies with only a fraction, 30,000 teenage pregnancies. All right? What? Number 26 is Iceland, 111 teenage pregnancies. And why is that? Because these ignorant fools running around trying to control women's bodies, demanding that, abortion is outlawed. Let me tell you something. They should have had abortion when some of these white supremacists were conceived. Okay? That world would have been a hell of a lot of better place if your mama swallowed. Y'all know what I mean?
Yo, listen, man. It's like we are leading in the criminal system. The most locked up people in.
More people in prison than anywhere in the world.
All the countries combined, we have more people locked up than them.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Yes.
Think about that, just in itself. The number, and most of them are black.
Oh yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So,
and that's on purpose. That's
are we really the minority? You understand? We're only the minority because they are not out in society. They're all caged and locked up.
Well, there are more white people, okay, but not in the world, okay, and more white people here in the United States, in the corporation of the United States of America, okay.
But I was saying, okay, that was because there's no real black men out.
I understand what you're saying. So, well, there's too many black men locked up.
Oh, definitely.
That's for damn sure.
For stuff that they didn't commit to.
No, yeah.
Innocent.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. This is why, I hear Dr. Rashad Ritchie always say this, all right? One of the movements that came out of, one of the things that came out of the George Floyd protests,
right,
all right, was to defund the police, okay? And of course, a lot of people misunderstand what that means. It doesn't mean just take all the funds out of policing. What it means is when you defund the police, you take the money out of unneeded training. You take the money out of things like Cop City in Atlanta. For those of you that don't know what Cop City is in Atlanta, right, they have built practice apartment buildings. There's people homeless down there. They built practice apartment buildings for police to train on how to run up in your apartment and murder your ass. Boo! The hell, man.
But I mean, and then they got homeless people right next to the building that he runs. But that's crazy. That's what they do. That's their whole.
And why nobody checking for this training facility?
And step on your neck. That's the whole concept of the government.
That's word.
You know
and like I said, Dr. Rashard Ritchie, what he points out is police are constantly defunding the police by committing crimes against society and getting sued for it, and then have to pay out. I just saw this morning.
But it ain't the police; it's the taxpayers and the workers that's paying for that. So the police, they don't care.
They don't give a damn.
They ain't coming out of their pockets, literally. You dig what I'm saying? So
you hit that nail on the head, Nsoromma.
Oh, let them pay for it. Yeah, and that's the way it is. So, and that's they being affected directly.
Right.
You did that? Okay, you get $900 out of your check for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then
and your pension is done.
Yeah.
I bet that'll stop a lot of that police corruption.
I mean, it's the way, it's the accountability punishment that is put in place that makes that not happen. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
You know? Well, anyway, America is the greatest country, right? 51 countries have more doctors per 1,000 than the USA. 79 countries have more hospital beds. Okay? 39 countries have longer life expectancy. 39 countries have longer life expectancy. 12 countries have more average monthly disposable income after taxes. Right? Disposable income is money that you can spend on anything you want. Right? And look, if you don't have disposable income, you're surviving. You're not living. All right?
And that's every black American almost.
Damn near. Damn near. You know, 124 countries pay less for basic utilities than in the U.S. All right? I know people who are paying $200, $300, $400 for their electric bill. A family of 4 or 5. All right? That's way too much. That's just way too much. You know? And this list just goes on and on and on. 153 countries pay less for bread than the USA. And I'm going to tell you something, all right? Unless you catch that bread when it goes on the shelf, all right, you're catching some of the nastiest bread that you can buy in a lot of these supermarkets in the U.S. here. That's where the bread goes stale. If it don't go stale, all right, watch out, because they done put some preservatives in that crap.
We have to learn to do our own thing anyway. Bake, cook, clean. Some people need to learn to wash, you know. And I mean, it's so much that they took out of school for the kids now that they don't even have the basic things that life takes to, you know, succeed. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Like you said, the things they are taking out of school. For instance, when I was in school, depending on your economic condition, right, and most of us, you know, no matter what, we got free lunch.
Right.
Okay. Now you have to have an account in school to get lunch, and if your account runs low, you don't get lunch.
Wow.
Okay. As a student, what they do is they give you a cheese sandwich. All right, and they're gonna bind you up with some cheese and
clog
bread.
you up without no medical insurance, without
you know, and they're gonna clog you up because your funds ran low. And most kids who, you know, they are embarrassed that their account, you know, their lunch account,
say nothing.
So they won't say nothing, and they won't eat lunch.
Yeah, and go hungry.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know, and for a lot of poor kids. Notice I didn't mention what their race was. I said a lot of poor kids.
Yeah.
Okay? Lunch is their major meal. Their school lunch is their major meal.
So how insensitive is that?
Yeah.
That, you know,
this is how cold-hearted and selfish these white supremacist bastards
And I was meaning
are.
like, as far as, home economics, they used to teach you how to cook and how to set the stove up and how to not set the house on fire.
Right.
I mean, it was so much training that we were getting when we were coming up within the system that they has really taken out now because they only want robots.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we got.
I mean, at 12 years old, I could cook breakfast for the family.
Right.
At 12 years old.
And had the kitchen cleaned up like everything, nothing was even cooked. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man.
That's what so, there's a lot of things that they're taking from us, or they're not teaching nowadays.
Right.
And one of the things that they have taken out of the schools, which is so sad, which is, detrimental to all communities, is they don't teach trades in school anymore. You don't learn woodworking, mechanics, and like Nsoromma said, home economics, wood shop, and things like that. Okay, everybody's not going to college, and that's okay. All right, but let me tell you something. A plumber who is trained as a plumber, which was one of the trades in school, okay, makes as much as anybody in that has a college degree. Electrician.
They had trades, man.
They had trades.
They took that. They took all of that out of school, put it in the predominant white schools, and where we are not seeing that in our community and in our neighborhood,
and of course, college was free, right? Up until Ronald Reagan got in office, first as governor of California, and then unfortunately president of the United States. And as I always say when I mention Ronald Reagan, may he roast in hell and may the devil sodomize him with a pitchfork, with the business end of a pitchfork. This is one of the worst people that ever walked the earth. Probably the best thing he ever did, the best thing Ronald Reagan ever did for the planet was to leave it. WHGE 95.3 FM. The Open Eye.
Jerry. Yo, your boy go in. I don't know how I didn't ever. Yo. Glad Reagan did. Not now. Yo. Stop.
Oh, yeah. Very good at that. Sorry.
Oh man, Niece, Yaga, Wagwan, Tracy, what's good? Yo, get 'em back.
WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye.
Yo,
Nsoromma.
Yo,
why was Emmett Till killed?
Oh man, for being black.
Specifically. He was accused of whistling at a white woman. Why was Rosewood burned down?
For being black.
Because somebody accused a black man of raping a white woman. Of course, Mississippi is one of the worst states in the nation about that. Their reputation behind Emmett Till will always go down in history. We are not going to let you forget. Okay? And you know what? Here's the damnedest thing about you, Mississippi. You don't want to forget, do you? And I'm going to tell you what.
And they don't want us to forget.
And they don't want us to forget. They want that
burnt on our minds so they know, listen, you stay up there where you are, you understand?
Like, stay in your place. Stay in
don't
your
come
place.
Around here with your business.
That's word.
But I'm just saying, that's the mindset. And how is that still around in 2023? I don't get it, man.
Yeah. Whoa. Part of it was we mentioned earlier. Too many of us are not willing to stand up. And I said, with Mississippi, all right, in February, that means last month, in 2023, Mississippi cops beat, waterboarded, handcuffed a black man, and shot him once.
Waterboarded?
Yeah.
They don't do that in war.
Yeah.
Like that. That's like against the law in war.
And what they do it for? Because they caught him dating a white woman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just in 2023.
In 2023.
And their whole police force ain't burnt down.
Nope.
None of those houses in the white community is destroyed.
And the police violence left Michael C. Jenkins hospitalized and fighting for his life with injuries that forced doctors to remove his tongue because they shot him in the mouth. Wow. This is 2023. All right, Jenkins was with his boy Eddie Parker in a private residence in the village of Braxton. It actually happened in January when the location was raided by 6 white officers without a warrant. And they ran up there and they jumped on this brother.
Wow.
Beat him, handcuffed him, beat him, and shot him in the mouth. His tongue had to be removed.
Now, tell me if something happened to them police officers.
Oh, well, you know, they
Don't
didn't
say
have a
no,
warrant.
brother, nothing.
No, well, you know, I'd like to say something happened to him.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd like to say something happened to him. Often I kind of called Nsoromma down when he say an eye for an eye. I said, don't say that on the air. An eye for an eye. Tell them, Nsoromma, when they do something to us,
Yo.
one for one.
It ain't me saying that. That's the creator saying that.
Yeah, hey.
Eye for eye, tooth for tooth,
Yeah.
foot for foot, hand for hand.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know?
it wasn't no race on that. It was self-defense and leave me alone on that.
That's what it was.
And now, I mean,
And
it's a
you know
problem
what?
for us to defend ourselves and stand up
Right.
for ourselves and believe in our rights.
You know?
How?
And don't get it
But
mixed.
you got the right to do that? And what are you
Right.
talking about?
Don't get it mixed, okay? I am indeed an admirer of Dr. King. But understand that nonviolence was a tactic. And like Malcolm said, I'll be nonviolent when I run into some nonviolence. And I'm going to tell you something else. I'm going to take you a step further. Because if you kill my cat, I'm going to kill your dog. I'm going to put out your goldfish. You know what I'm saying? That's word. You know? And I might kidnap one of your children. All right? You kill one of mine, I'm coming for 5 of yours.
I mean, listen, the war is war.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're in a war and you ain't protecting your family, you're a coward.
Uh-huh. Which you
So
Nsoromma?
there's no way in the world that we as black people are cowards because we're warriors.
Because we warriors.
So I don't understand how we still letting this go on.
Yeah. Well, you
That's
know, part of the
puzzling to me.
problem
The
is
fear that is put in and injected into you through indoctrine.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. All right. Our young warrior class is under a lot of pressure. Okay. One, they're filled with this propaganda to pursue the American dream and wear all these brand name items and clothing and what have you. Okay. Two, okay, those that show that they might have that warrior spirit are pushed into economic oppression where they are left to earn their living on the street in the underground economy, and then they're put in jail. And remember, the 13th Amendment said slavery is illegal unless you're incarcerated.
Right.
So what they do is they try to enslave the warrior class. All right? And that brings me to something else right here. Mm-hmm.
And
Some of
me
our-
meaning warrior, it is the concept of not at war with other people in the world, but a warrior as in surviving in the land of Africa, having to do what you have to do to keep your family alive. That warrior should be controlling everything, you know? And then you wouldn't let nobody do anything that's against the code of your warriorism. That's going to be in my slang scenario.
I heard that warriorism.
Warriorism.
I heard that. Okay. Here's a question.
What?
All right. And this is about our warriors. Why did the government destroy the Black Panthers but not the Nation of Islam?
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Why, Mr. Gibbs?
Because the Panthers were progressive and effective and not just talkers. They demonstrated their words with action. All right? One thing that about the government, they know who the real shakers are. Okay? J. Edgar Hoover told you so. He knew who to fear. And what J. Edgar Hoover said, we got to stop the rise of a black messiah. King got to go. We already got Malcolm. We ain't worried about Elijah because he's old and he's more into the religion and cleaning up the community than doing anything about white supremacy. All right? I have no disrespect to the NOI because I admire what the NOI, the Nation of Islam,
Okay.
has done with their rehabilitation programs. All right? I admire that. Okay? But one of the reasons the original Panthers were unifying people to fight the one common cause, which was the government.
Okay.
And last but not least, they had the black man arming himself in military discipline style, not just gun toting, and I'm going to get you quoting, I'm going to get you sucker quotes. Nah, them brothers and sisters was putting in real work. And like I said, no disrespect to the NOI. I had problems with the NOI, but like I said, that warrior class, let's not get it mixed.
And you gotta think that the Panthers was a different level because they was fighting fire with fire. They was putting paperwork in.
Yeah.
They had licenses. They had things that they had. The police in them had. They
That's right.
had the same credentials. That's why they couldn't really mess with them.
Right.
You understand? So
Yeah.
when you go about doing things the legal way, as they so call, now you become that target because you are considered a smart one.
Yes.
You
And that makes you very
right.
dangerous.
And that's the most dangerous one to look out for.
That's what.
You understand?
Yeah.
So it's about us getting our brain together more so than we already gonna be naturally blessed in physical ability. So it's about
And mental.
and mental. It's about nurturing it and putting the right things in there to make us progress.
Right. And let us not forget that many of Black Panthers to this day are still prisoners of the government. Okay? And they are political prisoners. Don't get that mixed. They are political prisoners. They are not criminal prisoners. Okay? They are prisoners for standing up for our community.
And it was like, how can you go to jail when there's no victim?
How about that?
If there's no victim and no one that can say that you did something to them, you're not supposed to be getting any time anyway.
No. But when you are a threat to the status quo, to the systemic racism that goes on, then you are criminal to these people. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, this is something else I seen come up. It was a black minister, okay, and a couple of years ago I saw a female politician, a black woman in Florida, who actually said, "Thank God for slavery, because if it wasn't for slavery, we'd still be in Africa swinging in trees with her ignorant ass." If I had been there in person, I probably would have got locked up because it would have been a problem. You know,
But
now,
that's what you call a plan.
they
probably said, "Okay, here, come here. Here go your $14." You know what I'm saying? Like you just was saying, Garvey was doing to the bull, making them think. You know how it's all kind of things that go on that the eye is deceiving about. You know what I'm saying?
Now, just recently, a minister, I'm pretty sure he's a minister. I want to say he was from Florida, but he might have been from Georgia. All right. Got up and said that, the reason we're in the condition that we're in is because we as black people have not been obedient to God. Okay. And, he's spouting that curse of Ham crap. All right. And the curse of Ham is Ham, the son of Noah, looked on Noah in his nakedness. It's a myth. It didn't happen. Noah never existed, so we know it's a myth. It didn't happen. All right, and this curse of Ham is not so. I've seen several posts by black people stating that black people suffered the oppression and horrors of slavery because black people of Africa were and are disobedient to God, thus were cursed with slavery as a punishment. Don't say that to me in person. I'm not sure if this view should be defined as slave mentality, mental illness, or just idiocy. According to this stance, God is punishing black people for their shortcomings while allowing our oppressors' evil and deviltry to go unchecked and unpunished. So what you're saying is God is mean, vindictive, racist, and obviously does not like black people. That's what you're saying about the Creator, you as a black person. Religious black people who take this stance claim our ancestors chose disobedience by not believing in the religion introduced by black people by foreigners. Thus we chose slavery. Here come these white people with their book, right? And as the saying goes, they gave us the book and told us to close our eyes and pray. And we opened our eyes. We had the book and they had our land. Don't be a dumbass.
And they told you, don't even read. They just said, close your eyes.
Yeah, close your eyes. You know? And what y'all believe is that our ancestors are at fault for the evil that has befallen us. Furthermore, black people are still suffering because of continued disobedience and are slaves to the idols of sex and materialism. Who is more nastier and freakier than the mayonnaise brigade? Get the hell out of here.
Ooh.
That black people have still not accepted the laws of God and that we are suffering by choice. This is so utterly ridiculous that it's almost difficult to address. First of all, it's hypocrisy of the lowest order. Every one of these so-called religious people, and some of them had the audacity to call themselves spiritual, pursue the trappings of wealth and the decadent creature comforts that modern society offers. For instance, Reverend Chickenfoot, I think he is in New York City,
right?
Fixed up his bank account to get the impression that he had like $10 million in the bank and acquired this property, this mansion, right? Come to find out the fool had $10 and they locked his silly ass up.
What?
Yeah. All right. Second, it's the height of ignorance to blame the oppressed for their own oppression while excusing the evil and deviltry of the oppressor. Third, it is outright blasphemy to claim that God has cursed a whole race of people with such evil. There is a God. This God did not mean this evil to befall anyone. This deviltry is the work of men. The energy of the universe created man. Man created God and religions to oppress and enslave each other. Any black people that believe such foolishness curse themselves out of their own mouths. Keep your ignorance and your curses to your goddamn self. Leave my people alone. This is the Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM. And as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays.
Yep.
Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority.
Who treat you as an option.
I'm Patrice Gibbs.
I'm Nsoromma.
This has been
WHGE 95.3. Yaga!
Right, all right.
Yo, you know what it is. Thank y'all for staying all the way to this end. Yup, Mies. Yo, Ty. Yo, Jeremy. Yo, Tracy. Shout out. Yo, you know who y'all are. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, yo, hold up. Yo, Nsoromma streaming on all platforms too. Dig what I'm saying? And listen.
Hey, what I always tell you, global African supremacy. Because the world was a hell of a better place when black men ruled. You don't think so? Look at the history. Just take a look at the history, all right? And the beautiful things we did, all right? Our history did not start with slavery. Global African supremacy forever. Peace.
Yup. What? Tune in next Saturday, 11:20.